I was tempted to write one more to reinforce a very important point, but I'll just say it here and hope you remember it. Section 2-207 applies to sales of goods. It does not apply to other types of contracts. That hasn't stopped courts from looking to Section 2-207 as persuasive authority. The battle of the forms isn't exclusive to sales of goods. A court might borrow ideas from Section 2-207 in cases involving other types of contracts. Now let's move on to the next part of the battle of the forms, the effect of proposals in a party's form. The additional or different terms on an acceptance or confirmation are just proposals. To call them proposals implies they might yet become part of a contract. How might that happen? Under the common law, neither party can unilaterally modify a contract. Contract modification is a lot like contract formation. It requires mutual assent. One party's silence or failure to object is not in itself acceptance of a proposal. Of course, people generally don't call or text another party to say, "Great fine print, I agree with all those provisions." Still, there is a way the additional fine print might become part of a contract without the recipient's knowing assent. The code adopts what looks like a revolutionary approach to this problem in 2-207 subpart 2. It's not just revolutionary, it looks a little dangerous. At first glance, it looks significant, but on reflection, it's not so significant. Like most revolutions, it might leave revolutionaries a little disappointed. Let's take a look at subpart 2, which governs the effect of proposals in an acceptance or confirmation. Here's section 2-207 subpart 2. The additional terms are to be construed as proposals for addition to the contract. Between merchants, such terms become part of a contract unless A, the offer expressly limits acceptance to the terms of the offer, B, they materially alter it, or C, notification of objection to them has already been given or is given within a reasonable time after notice of them is received. A, to be Here's section 2-207 subpart 2. The additional terms are to be construed as proposals for addition to the contract. Between merchants, such terms become part of a contract unless A, the offer expressly limits acceptance to the terms of the offer, B, they materially alter it, or C, notification of objection to them has already been given or is given within a reasonable time after notice of them is received. The revolution in this rule is the suggestion that mutual assent isn't always necessary. Additional terms in an acceptance or confirmation might become part of a contract without the recipient's manifestation of assent. There are, however, important limits to this revolution. One limit of this rule is that the offer remains predominant. The proposals in an acceptance or confirmation can't contradict the terms of the offer. That's because subpart 2 allows modification only under that rule by additional terms in an acceptance or confirmation. The fact that subpart 2 says additional but not different is important. An additional term supplements an offer or an existing contract. It can sit on the same page with an offer or a contract without contradiction and without subtracting from the offer or contract. In contrast, a term that's different is one that contradicts some part of an offer or contract. Subpart 2 won't allow a different term to displace a term in an offer or an existing contract without the recipient's assent manifested by the usual means and not by this subpart 2 rule. Now look at the phrase between merchants beginning the second sentence. The rule we are about to describe applies only when both parties are merchants. It doesn't apply if one party is a consumer. This is partly to protect consumers against stealth terms, but it also means that you, as a consumer, can't sneak new terms into your contract with a merchant. What's a merchant? Anyone who sells or buys goods as part of a business. Don't assume a merchant is a big company. Suppose you have a hobby. You make sock puppets. You sell some of your sock puppets on your Etsy site, Craigslist, or eBay. You buy supplies for making sock puppets at a hobby store. Congratulations! You're a merchant under the UCC. Subpart 2 applies to you when you deal with another merchant. Back to the revolution, which begins in earnest with the second sentence. Between merchants, such additional terms become part of the contract unless it's a very, very big unless. At first glance, this looks very revolutionary because it seems to allow one party to sneak supplementary terms past the other party without the other party's assent. Just send a confirmation with all the additional terms you want. Can it really be that easy? No, this is not as big a revolution as it seems. The word unless is a very, very big unless. The additional terms will not supplement an offer or contract if any of three things is true. First, subpart A. The offer expressly limits acceptance to the terms of the offer. This suggests a way to prevent anyone from ever supplementing your offer without your express assent. Add a clause to your standardized form. I do not assent to your addition of any terms to this offer. This works if your form is being used as an offer. You just coded your offer with armor. The other party's acceptance can't add terms under subpart 2. Additional terms require your assent, and not just by silence or failure to object. You'd have to say yes. Here's the second reason an additional term won't become part of the contract. Subpart B. They, the additional terms, materially alter. If you didn't coat your offer with armor, the additional terms still have to get past this wall. A party can only supplement an offer or contract with terms that are not material. This prevents the other party from adding any major surprises. What's material and what's not material? We'll explore that question in some examples in just a few moments. Here's the third reason supplementary terms won't become part of a contract. Subpart C. Notification of objection to them has already been given or is given within a reasonable time after notice of them is received. Let's imagine how this might happen. You're a very unusual person. You read fine print. Maybe a client pays you $400 an hour just to read fine print. Even I might read fine print if somebody paid me $400 an hour. So you read the fine print in an acceptance or confirmation, and something catches your eye. Choice of law, Uzbekistan. Isn't that where Borat is from? My client didn't have a choice of law clause in its offer, or there isn't one in an existing contract, so this Uzbek clause is additional, not different. And my client's offer doesn't have the armor coding I described earlier. Is Uzbek law materially different from Texas law? I have no idea. I don't know anything about Uzbek law. I do know that if there's a problem and Uzbek law applies, I'll have to retain an Uzbek lawyer. I don't like this, material or not. how do I make sure this additional term doesn't become part of the contract? I pick up my phone, I call the sender, and I say, I object to your Uzbek law clause. Better, I could send an email to make sure I have a record of my objection. Easy as that. I objected to the Uzbek clause, and that clause won't be part of the contract. I could also just send an email whenever I get another merchant's confirmation or acceptance and say, I object to your additional terms. None of those terms will become part of the contract. You'll note that subpart C also says that objection might already have been given in advance. Here is one way that might have happened. I might have said during negotiations, I know you love Uzbek law, but I object right now to any clause adopting Uzbek law. Now for a set of exercises. Be sure to have the -207 at your side. You'll get a lot more from this if you're a participant and not just an observer.